the loss of his lover, devised a bizarre scheme. He commissioned a life-size doll in the image of Alma.
He thinks, well, if I can't have Alma, I'll have a doll of her, life-sized, and like Alma in every particular, except she's not living and breathing. And consequently, she can't answer back, and she can't deny him his pleasures.
The woman asked to make the doll was Hermina Moos, and Kokoschka gave her detailed and explicit instructions on exactly how it should look.
He wrote a series of really bizarre and endlessly detailed letters as to how he wanted this doll made, down to the teeth and the tongue and the eyelashes and every single thing.
In one letter, Kokoschka demanded, "Please make it possible that my sense of touch will be able to take pleasure in those parts where the layers of fat and muscle suddenly give way to a sinuous covering of skin." Finally, Kokoschka's dream doll arrived.
And he opens the box, and he takes out this figure, which horrifies him. And no wonder, because it looks like nothing so much as a yeti. This soft swansdown-like fuzz on the skin, which obviously Alma Mahler had and which he loved so much, has now come out like thick polar bear's fur, is the only way I can describe it.
But Kokoschka made the best of a bad job. He drew and painted the doll, and bought expensive dresses and Parisian lingerie for his make-believe Alma. It's even said that he took the doll to the opera, and to dinner afterwards.
It's an appalling thing. It really is a bizarre thing. It might be a provocation, of course, on the one hand, because Kokoschka loved to shock people. So there is a good deal of provocation probably in it, but on the other hand, it shows deep wounds that still were there.
Eventually, however, Kokoschka decided to end his bizarre relationship with the Alma doll. He threw a grand party and invited his friends to help him say goodbye.
They weren't told that the doll was going to be there as the guest of honour, so to speak, but at the end of it all, at any rate, it was said to be a fairly noisy, drunken party. The doll was summarily stabbed and thrown over the hedge at the end of the garden.
In later life, Kokoschka recalled how the police, seeing what looked like the dead body of a naked woman, had assumed a crime of passion had been committed. As Kokoschka said, that's what it was, because on that night I had killed Alma. While all these shenanigans were going on, the Tempest was gracing the walls of Otto Winter's home in Hamburg. But in the 1920s he sold the painting to the city's art gallery, and it might well have stayed there if the violent history of the 20th century had not intervened. When the Nazis came to power in the 1930s, they set about seizing works of art that didn't conform to their ideals. One of them was the Tempest. This so-called degenerate art was shown in a huge exhibition that toured Germany in the late 1930s. But much as they mocked and made fun of what they considered rubbish, the Nazis were smart enough to realize that some of this art might find buyers outside Germany. The Minister of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, noted in his diary, "We hope at least to make some money from this garbage." One piece of garbage that was sure to make money was the Tempest, and the man who was determined to get his hands on it was the director of the Kunstmuseum in Basel, Georg Schmidt.
As soon as he learned that Kokoschka's Tempest was for sale. It was very high on his list.
Georg Schmidt received details from Berlin of the works of art for sale, but there were those who thought it was wrong to give good Swiss money to the Nazis. Schmidt was convinced, however, that it was his duty to get paintings like The Tempest for the museum in Basel.
He knows there are fantastic masterpieces on sale that might even land somewhere where you can never see them again. Some private collection that gets destroyed. Or, the Nazis themselves might burn them, like they had burned all the books in Berlin not long ago. He did the only right thing. He went for quality. And he convinced everybody to bring them to Basel.
And so for nearly 70 years, the Kunstmuseum in Basel has been home to The Tempest. The two young lovers in The Tempest both lived into ripe old age. Alma Mahler died in New York in 1964. She was 85 years old. In her apartment, a small reproduction of The Tempest stood on a side table. Oskar Kokoschka died in 1980, just a few weeks short of his 94th birthday. By then, he had established himself as one of the great, innovative artists of the 20th century.
The story behind this painting is the story of one of the, dare I say, greatest love affairs, and most obviously doomed love affairs, in the recorded history of the 20th century.
And there's another masterpiece on BBC4 tomorrow at 7:30.